everyone. Welcome to the EVOQ Bike podcast. And today we are talking about sugar water. Now, you might be thinking, I thought I needed a special 2-to-1 glucose to fructose ratio. Or you might be thinking, sugar water tastes really gross. But I am here to dispel those myths and to tell you why sugar water can be an absolute game changer for your cycling. So if you're looking to save money and stay fueled, this is the podcast for you. My name is Landry. I'm a coach and the senior leader here at EVOQ Bike, and let's get into it. So, a little bit of background on cycling nutrition. Why is it so important, and why do we need to hit these super high carb intakes on the bike? Now, when I started riding around about 15 years ago, it was still that old school mindset of eat as little as possible on the bike because that made you tough. And so you'd hear of people going out for 5-hour rides eating nothing but a banana or something like that. And looking back on it, it sounds absolutely ridiculous that you would go ride for 5 hours and burn 4,000 calories and not eat anything. But that was the mindset. And really over the last 5 years since COVID, we've seen this switch from how little can I eat on the bike to how much can I eat on the bike. And a lot of the research has shown that these higher carb intakes can dramatically improve cycling performance. We've gone from 60 grams of carbs per hour to 90 to 120. And now we're even seeing people go as high as 200 grams of carbs per hour when they're racing. So why is this so important? Well, really, on-bike fueling is just as important as the training itself. You can't really train hard unless you're putting the right fuel in. It's kind of similar to if you have a really fast sports car, but if you're going to drive from LA to New York, you have to put a lot of fuel in that car for it to actually go. And it's the same thing with nutrition. And what we're really looking for with the on-bike fueling is glycogen sparing. So the amount of carbohydrates that your body stores within the muscle, we want to keep those levels as high as possible. The more glycogen you have, the more power you have throughout the whole day. And that's how you're going to get to the end of the race and drop everybody, is because you're going to be topped up with glycogen and ready to do those hard efforts. And we've even heard about this in the pro peloton. Everybody's talking about how the speeds have increased and the levels increased and everybody's going faster and the racing is hard. And every single day, everybody's just attacking from the gun and nobody gets tired anymore. And it's because of this fueling that even professional riders are now seeing that on-bike fueling and these high carb intakes are essential for hard, high-level racing and training. The other big thing this impacts is also recovery. So if you stay more fueled on the bike, you're not going to be as tired when you get back from your ride, and you're going to recover better. And that's going to allow you to train harder and harder and harder. And I know if we're talking 5+ years ago, when I didn't eat enough on the bike, I had a really hard time recovering. And I would get back from a 4 or 5 hour ride, be totally empty when I got back. And then I'd wake up the next morning, wouldn't be recovered. And then my performance would suffer the next day. And when I really started digging into this research and started fueling on the bike better, it made such a huge difference, to the point where I just really don't get tired. I can be doing 20, 25-hour weeks on the bike and still feel great at the end. And that never would have been possible without on-bike fueling. So really, when this research started to come out, I realized that I was not fueling enough on the bike. So starting to read, wow, 90 grams of carbs per hour, that seems like a lot. I thought we were supposed to be doing 60. That's what the research said. And then I actually counted out the amount of carbs that I was doing on my rides, and it was like 30 to 40 grams of carbs an hour. And it's like, man, I'm obviously doing it wrong. Maybe I should try this higher 90 grams of carbs per hour. Initially, I tried to do that with just solid food, and obviously that was extremely difficult. 90 grams of carbs per hour was the equivalent of like a Cliff Bar every 30 minutes or something like that. Or if you want to go even higher, even more difficult. And I just found it really hard to hit those carb intakes on long rides with just solid food. So then I started looking into the drink mixes. But at that time, I was still in grad school, wasn't really making any money, was just kind of a poor college kid. And I really was not willing to shell out $50 a week on drink mix, especially as somebody that rides a lot. And so I figured there had to be another solution, literally, that could help me to stay fueled without breaking the bank. And that's really where sugar water kind of comes in. And so started doing sugar water about 3.5 years ago, and it literally changed my cycling. Like just from sugar water, I saw an immediate jump in my fitness, immediate jump in my motivation, my recovery, my ability to train hard. And I was properly fueled, so I was able to train harder and get way faster because of sugar water. So the question is, Landry, I thought that I needed a proprietary drink mix that had the special ratios, and you're telling me now that sugar water is going to work just as good as this drink mix. How does that work? Well, what we're now seeing is that the 2-to-1 glucose to fructose ratio is actually closer to 1-to-1. So a lot of the more recent research is showing that optimal is actually 1 to 0.8 glucose to fructose ratio is the best for on-bike fueling. And if we want to look at the chemical composition of sugar water, it is sucrose, which is glucose and fructose combined. And it is pretty much exactly a 1-to-1 ratio of glucose to fructose. And to me, that's pretty darn close to 1 to 0.8. So that's close enough for me. So really, sugar water is giving us the exact ratios of glucose to fructose that we want in natural form. And really, the reason for this is because the body evolved to run on sugar. So if you think about it, sugar's been around for thousands of years, and humans have been consuming sugar for thousands of years. It's only been in the last 15-ish years that we've had these high carb drink mixes. And so the body evolved to run on these simple sugars and on this glucose and fructose and sucrose, because these are naturally occurring things in nature. The body didn't evolve to run on drink mix. And so the human body is already adapted to run on sugar. And that's exactly why, in my opinion, the 1-to-1 ratio is optimal, is because that's what our body has adapted to perform on from sugar from thousands of years. And so the ratios of your drink mix versus sugar water more or less is going to be exactly the same, and your body really doesn't know the difference. The other big thing is electrolytes, and so a lot of these drink mixes will contain electrolytes, but you can pretty much solve that problem just by putting sea salt in your sugar water, because the thing that you lose the most in sweat is that sodium, and you can replace that just by putting salt in your sugar water. Now, why would you want to switch from drink mix to sugar water? The reason is because it is way, way, way cheaper. We did the calculations, and even for somebody who rides 10 hours per week, switching from a drink mix to sugar water can save you $1,700 a year. $1,700. You can buy drink mix for maybe $50. You can buy a bag of sugar at the grocery store that will last you several weeks for $3. And if you're riding a lot and you're fueling on the bike, that really, really adds up over time. And that $1,700 you could use to go to more bike races. You could use that to buy a new wheel set, to save up for a new bike. If sugar water does the job, but it's less expensive, it's kind of a no-brainer. So, and again, I've been doing sugar water for 3.5 years. I've recommended it to many other athletes. And actually, I've even converted Brendan to sugar water. I told him about it a few years ago. I think back then he was doing maltodextrin, and told him like, hey, I've been doing sugar water. At first he was a little bit skeptical, but we even converted Brendan to sugar water. So if you're interested in giving sugar water a try, what is the best way to make it? So one of the greatest things about sugar water is that you can really customize it the way you like and kind of the way you prefer. There's tons of different ways to do it. Some people will do maybe 60, 80 grams of carbs in a bottle. Some people can hyper concentrate it in a flask. There's tons of different ways that you can do it. For me personally, I have found that doing one bottle of sugar and then like one bottle of water works best. So what I'll do is I'll do like a 26-ounce bottle like this. And I like these ones that have I think it's called the hydrolock spout, because this doesn't leak. So you don't want to be getting a bunch of sticky sugar water all over your bike. So I really like these types of lids that don't leak. And I will put 200 grams of sugar in one of these bottles. So it's really, really concentrated. And then I'll have another bottle of straight water. And the reason why I like that is because you have kind of the sweet sugar bottle, but then you can rinse your mouth out with just the neutral flavor of the water. Versus if you had two bottles of sugar, it could get a little bit sweet. So I like being able to have kind of just the straight water to rinse out my mouth. And then also just being able to rinse the sugar off of your teeth, obviously for like health reasons, is good. And with that, I'll do like small swigs at a time. So it is pretty concentrated. It is pretty sweet. So I treat it kind of more as a gel. And so I'll just do small swigs at a time and then kind of just drink the other bottle of water as is. But you can do it however you want. If you prefer to do maybe less concentrated, but mix it up over two bottles, that really works as well. And I would recommend maybe starting a little bit lower. So maybe start at 60, 80 grams of carbs, see how that tastes. And then you can increase it from there depending on your affinity for sweetness, because everybody has different levels of sweetness that they can handle. On the surface, the sugar water sounds kind of gross. Like, it sounds weird, but I promise you, when you try it, you're going to be surprised. It's like, oh, this actually tastes totally fine. In fact, I prefer it over drink mix because it has a neutral flavor. So if you're out for 6 hours on the bike, maybe doing a gravel race or something like that, you can kind of get tired of the flavored drink mixes. And so I think having the neutral flavor of just the sugar actually makes it way more palatable. The other option that I've actually started experimenting with recently is these flasks. You can order these on Amazon. This is a Hydro Pack flask. It's 8 ounces. You can hyper concentrate like 100 grams of carbs or 100 grams of sugar in one of these flasks, which sounds like a lot, but actually trying it out, it's way more palatable than a gel. And if you take one or two of these on a ride, that's an extra 100 grams of carbs right there. Super clutch if you're racing and you need some hyper concentrated energy. Now, one last thing I haven't touched on is the type of sugar that you want to buy. That's also important. You just want to buy the pure granulated sugar in the baking section. So you don't want to buy the raw sugar that's got like the thicker granules. You want just the standard, baking sugar that you would bake a cake with, because that dissolves really easily. Best way to make the sugar water is to fill up the bottle to about here, put the sugar water in, shake it up, and then fill it up to the top of the rest with water until it's dissolved. And if you just shake it for 15, 20 seconds, everything should dissolve in there just fine. You won't really have anything settling at the bottom. Of course, you need to use a kitchen scale to weigh out the amount of grams that you need. Now, another concern that a lot of people have when I have told them about sugar water is, Landry, isn't that unhealthy to be just chugging sugar on the bike? Like, I thought sugar was bad. And we've all been raised to think that from an early age, that sugar is bad. Sugar is going to give you diabetes. It's going to make you fat. And so just all of a sudden going on the bike and guzzling sugar water sounds like it would be extremely unhealthy. And I think people are afraid of that because I guess the thought of drinking a drink mix sounds healthier than sugar. The reality is that's actually not true. Your body does not know the difference between the glucose and fructose in your drink mix and the sucrose in the sugar water. It's all going to the same place. And the reason for that is because when you're exercising, the rules kind of change a little bit. So obviously, if you are sitting on the couch on a rest day, you don't drink sugar water because, yeah, that could cause some health problems. Or if we see just in the general population, if we have sedentary individuals that don't exercise a lot and they're drinking or eating a lot of sugary foods, that's really when the problems start. But when you're exercising, what happens is your adrenals will secrete norepinephrine, and that actually will inhibit the release of insulin. And so basically what happens is that normal metabolic response that you have with like really sugary foods is negated, and pretty much that sugar just goes straight to the muscle and it's used as fuel. So when you're chugging that sugar water on the bike, it's just getting used immediately for fuel, and there's zero impact to your insulin, and the risk of any health complications is no higher than it would be with a standard drink mix. Now, I also will say we have a blog that also details this topic. So if you want to refer to that just to rehash your memory on these concepts or how to make the sugar water, we have a blog about that, and I will link that in the description. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you tried sugar water? What do you think of it? Do you think that sugar water sucks and that we should all use drink mix instead? I would be really interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. So leave your thoughts in the comments below. And also, I would love to hear from you. My name is Landry, and you can email me directly at landry@EVOQ Bike. I'll have that in the comments as well. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.